Well, we're here in beautiful Abbotsford, which is an inner suburb just outside of Melbourne. It's a lovely suburb with a diverse community, and so is the style of houses. You've got everything from chic warehouse through to traditional charm. Well, we're going to follow this couple's journey and see what they built here in Abbotsford. Welcome to Build Me a Home. We meet a family about to embark on their first ever build. And we meet the innovative company who can guarantee there will be no weather delays on this construction site. Abbotsford is a suburb 2 kilometres east of the Melbourne CBD. Originally an industrial suburb, its continued gentrification and close proximity to the city have seen house prices skyrocket in recent years. But with the heritage overlays in place, it will always be a quintessential Melbourne suburb, with several iconic landmarks such as the Skipping Girl vinegar sign, the Abbotsford Convent, and the old home of the Collingwood Football Club, Victoria Park. Not letting the nostalgia of the landmark sway him in any way, owner Mark is an Essendon supporter to the bone. Perhaps it's the point of difference that has led he and his wife Aggie in search of alternative building methods, but there's more to it than just that. Mark is a winemaker and the busy vintage period of the year is approaching. Even more urgently, Aggie is expecting her third child and will take maternity leave from her managerial position at the same time as the house is being built. They want to build on their existing block which they currently live in, and they need all this to happen very fast. We meet Aggie at the Prebuilt warehouse to find out more about her decision.
We've looked at the whole range of building types, so from volume builders to in situ architect design homes and also prefab, and we felt that the prefab modular home really fit well with what we wanted to achieve. There was a few advantages. I mean, one of the biggest advantages is speed, so how quickly they actually build and then deliver the home and construct the home. So that was a huge advantage. Also, I just feel like it's really stress-free. So I really don't feel like there's going to be too much stress involved. We spec everything out at the start. There isn't any of that on-site build, having to move out, and that's really driven our decision given that we've got a young family. At the moment, we're living in a 1960s brick monstrosity, I must say. It's pretty much the eyesore of the street, so the neighbours are so excited that we're looking at building.
We meet Rob, the Managing Director of Prebuilt, who Aggie and Mark have decided to build with.
For us, it's a terrific example of urban renewal. It's something that we've been sort of working towards with our design team, is to provide really practical, well-designed solutions for the inner city.
This is exciting. Prefab is not what it used to be. Often the notion of prefab conjures thoughts of remote buildings and flimsy beach shacks, horrible dongas and cheap utilitarian 1950s homes. But the advancements made in this era of housing are phenomenal. With architects involved designing for this site and with livability and sustainability principles in mind, the possibilities are endless.
Well, for her it makes sense because she can stay in the house. She's got a very busy family lifestyle. She can stay in the house and for the maximum amount of time, and we can try and design our process around minimising that disruption. She can stay in there, we'll build in the factory, at the last minute we'll go in there, demolish her house and install our house, and she moves back in. Our design process is such that the architect and our team will take the brief from the client. They'll analyse the constraints of the site in terms of planning restrictions, orientation to the light, to the weather, to whatever the view lines might be. Architect will go back, restructure and rethink about how that might work in the best possible way for the client, and they'll come back with a three-dimensional model, computer model, which they'll be able to present to the client. The client will be able to manipulate and understand how those spaces are going to work for them. What's really interesting about this model is that the front yard of this house faces north, so that means that the backyard faces south, which is a really problematic thing in terms of getting north light into those rooms. So by having a good design approach, we've got 3 or 4 little courtyards within the building to enable us to access that really nice north light, which is a really exciting thing. It's something that was never done in the traditional terrace house design.
I catch up with Aggie during the build and find out more about her existing home. A really interesting project, this.
Yeah.
An inner city prefab home. I don't think I've seen this before.
Inner city block's already such a large expense. We didn't want to...
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's an existing home on it, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. So there's a 1960s brick.
Okay, how's it look?
Yeah, it's the eyesore of the street. It was actually featured on Brick Fences of Melbourne.
Are you kidding me?
We're pretty proud of that one.
You're currently living in it?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. So what's the plan? How do you do that? How do you knock it over and install a new house? And how long does it take? And where are you going to live?
Yeah, so look, that was one of the things that was really attractive for us by going with a modular home. We didn't want that whole nightmare of moving out, things being delayed, paying rent somewhere for months and months on end. So,
yeah. Well, because here they just build it in the factory, don't they?
Yeah, they built it in the factory, and we actually received an email saying your house will be delivered on this date, as if it was a parcel.
After the break, we visit the factory and check out the build. And later, we reveal the finished home. The results will amaze you. We're in Abbotsford, an inner city suburb of Melbourne, to watch the build of this modern prefab. Aggie visits the factory to see her house take shape.
So is this the place?
Yeah, we've now got it at frame stage. We've started to work through with the ceiling and the roof structure. So you'll start to see it really taking shape. You'll start to get a feel for the services as they go in, where the plumbing and the wiring, the hydronic heating, all that sort of stuff is in. Will be
and
going
it's
in.
still running on schedule?
Yeah, we're on schedule. It's quite easy to control now because we're outside the weather. There's nothing really that can affect us. We're getting, all of our trades are organised. The materials are here, as you can see. So it's from here. It's pretty easy.
It's looking really fabulous. I mean, it's looking really big, a lot bigger than I actually expected.
Yeah, and it's amazing as you have these big empty spaces. It's hard to get the perspective, but you'll see that as the furniture starts to go in and things as well.
Watching these guys work is quite a sight. Free from weather constraints and difficult access, they can really cut loose. Back at the site, the demolition is wrapping up. Melway Demolition has knocked down the old place, and the site is now ready for the new house to be craned in. When the day comes, the street is abuzz with a new arrival. This build has a festive-like atmosphere with everyone coming out to watch the spectacle. Can you imagine a conventional build getting the community together like this?
Yeah, it's been a great day. It's obviously been a long time in the planning, and we've invited a lot of our friends here today to have a look as well. A lot of neighbours have turned up as well. It's a bitterly cold morning, so we're...
But sunny at least, so
yeah,
no rain
sunny.
delay.
So a few cups of tea, and we're here to have a look.
So really the crane is just starting to lift in the pieces down the module. So there's 5 modules that will be going in throughout the whole day, so it'll probably take around 5 hours. The disruption to the neighbourhood is really minimal. If anything, it's got more of a festival, atmosphere around it because it's quite different, but it's not like there's construction going on for 12 months and people taking up parking the whole time. So I think the neighbours are actually quite appreciative of the process as well.
Yeah, and they've been really supportive too. They've been coming out and asking questions, in the weeks preceding, and they're really just interested to see how it goes.
We're staying next door at the moment while they're on holidays, so yeah. We bought the block quite a few years ago now, and there was a 1950s, you may have had a shot of it, house on there, and we've always loved the area and wanted to build on there. We didn't want to build a repro house that fits in with the old Federation houses, but the architect, Pleysier Perkins, have been quite respectful with the modern design, so trying to make it fit into the streetscape, and we're in a council that actually requires that from a heritage perspective. So we love the modern design, but we also want it to really fit well with the current streetscape.
The streetscape is important, although even though it's an older streetscape, there's quite a diverse range of architecture. So we sort of went back to first principles, looking at the fact that the front of the house faces due north. So the two living room wings actually come off towards the western flank, so they're getting two north-facing courtyards and two north-facing living areas. So it should be very light and a light house that's enjoyable to be in. We do a lot of conventional buildings as well. Slightly different way of tackling the design, but we really try not to let the trucking modules dictate the form of the building. So it's design first, and then we work out how we can divide them up. The biggest benefit is speed, really. I mean, the fact that this will be in a day. There's other projects in the same street that will take up to a year. In terms of quality control in the factory, there's, the house never sees the light of day until it comes out for the first time. So we're not sort of up against weather issues. So we sort of look at it as being virtually at lock-up stage from the day it begins.
After the break, Mark and Aggie are in and we get a tour of the finished house. Well, the day is finally here. We meet up with Aggie and Mark in their brand new home.
Now, you guys have been together for how long now?
About 18, 19 years.
19 years. And you must have met when you were 5.
Just about, yeah.
I was 3.
That's cute. And 3 kids later.
3 kids later and, one house.
One house. Now, this is your first house that you guys have actually built before, isn't it?
That's true, yep.
And you decided to do something completely different.
Well, different in some respects. The design of the house was fairly conventional design, sitting down with an architect, nutting out exactly what we wanted, where we wanted it.
Yeah.
That was fairly conventional, but the whole construction part of it was definitely a bit different.
You designed it, you've seen it, you've lived it, and then you move in. Is the practicality what you thought it was going to be?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. We still, talk about certain parts of the house that we love, and we're still discovering other parts of the house as we go along, because we're still at work most of the day, and we come home and it's a great little retreat after a hard day's work, to come back to a lovely new home and really enjoy it.
So furnishing the home looks absolutely beautiful, by the way. So how do you go about fitting something that's going to match the look of the home?
Yeah. So we had someone helping us, Adriana Hanna, a great interior designer, and she helped select a lot of the finishing. So, for example, the joinery in the kitchen. So that's, I think, quite an original feature there. And
the lighting. One thing she did fantastically was the lighting.
Yeah.
So we still absolutely love the lighting every night. I mean, you guys don't get to see it today, but the light's very subtle, welcoming, and it's just beautiful.
The kitchen just works really well. Love the stovetops, love the benches, love the space.
Yeah.
I love the fact that there's no TV in the kitchen dining area.
Okay.
So that was a big win for me.
Okay.
But it has really meant that when we're all together, there's no temptation to turn the TV on. We just chat and
that's really
have some good
clever.
family time.
The master bedroom suite is absolutely gold.
It is. It's our little paradise, I suppose. It's a good way to start the day.
You've got outdoor spaces, and you've used them really well.
Yeah, it's important for us. We could have built something that covered the whole space, but we wanted some nature and some greenery.
Yeah.
We live in the city, so we like to surround ourselves with something green.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah.
it's fairly stark and cold. So we also like to eat outside too and do things outside.
I'm really quite surprised we're in the middle of Abbotsford, but the way the house is designed and kind of like with a little the window slot for the kitchen, splashback, and the outdoor space, there's so much vegetation here.
We were pretty lucky actually when the house came and was placed on the block. You don't actually know that the vegetation was going to be in exactly that spot, so it was actually a really pleasant.
It was all good planning.
Yeah, it was all planning. It was a really pleasant surprise to have vegetation all around, and it looks lovely. What
did the kids do when they moved in?
They ran up and down the corridors a lot, and with the slate tiling, they've constantly been playing a game where they try and not touch the edges or the cracks.
Oh yeah.
So they dart around on the tiling.
I love how it flows all the way from outside on the front patio, all the way through into the kitchen, and then up as part of the island bench as well.
Yep. And also outside too, part of the paving stones are the same tiles that we put outside as well. So yeah, it does flow all around the house.
It is quite different, and we know it wouldn't be to everyone's taste, but we also think that if you build your own house, you should have something that's a little bit distinctive, even though, and even a little bit bold and distinctive, and so that's why we went for that option, and we're really happy that we did.
Living in a modern house, there's so many little modern odd things that you're probably not used to, like the bin.
Yeah, the bin's great.
It is great.
It's an integrated bin. It's hidden.
I know it's a weird thing to talk about, but I think people who watch the show will go, "Oh, I love that idea."
Yeah. No, the bin's fantastic. I mean, it's all worked in and it's really practical. So for the person who takes the bins out, maybe you want to comment.
Yeah, as far as bins goes, it's definitely the best bin I've ever had to work with.
One of the engineering elements of the home is something that no one else would even think of that you love, is really fascinating. Just tell us about it.
Traditional houses are built on concrete slabs. This is actually set upon screw piles. So the screw piles sit about 2 to 3 feet above the ground, and then the house is lowered then on these screw piles. So that's given us a bit of storage space under the house as well, which has been quite handy. That's something that I've only just discovered in the past week, actually, when I've had things to put somewhere and gone, where do I put this? And then I've noticed that there's all this storage space on the house. So it's been a great bonus to also have that. And it also gives us a higher elevation upon the street as well. So, yeah, it gives us a better angle.
The kids are absolutely adorable. Just seeing them today and the way they run around the house and they live in it. I mean, have you found that they've kind of adapted to it really well?
Yeah, they have. It's they've also loved seeing it being built as well. So they've been through the whole process. So we have Chich, who's 8, and Theo, who's 5, and Priscilla, who's only 10 months. So Chich, this is his, I think, 4th house now. So it's funny thinking about that, but we've moved a lot just as we've been upgrading homes.
Yeah.
And they're really enjoying it. They can't wait to get the trampoline up, which is going to be happening soon. The block's not huge. It's a 400 square metre block, so we never really wanted to have anything overly ostentatious, and we wanted it to blend into the streetscape. It's a modern house and most of the homes around it are heritage, so we don't want it to stand out. We'd rather have it blend in and not be something that...
understated,
Yeah. Sustainability, how does it stack up?
Most houses these days need to be built to 6 stars, so from that perspective, it does meet all those requirements. It does have sustainable aspects to it, from things such as trades don't need to travel as far to get to site, for example, and the materials, if they're built in a factory environment, can all be produced in bulk, so you don't have
the wastage.
As much wastage and inefficiencies in the production process. So there are sustainability benefits to this type of build.
Okay, big question, and I'm actually genuinely want to know. Would you recommend, well, firstly, doing a prefab home to anybody, and would you recommend pre-built?
Oh, yes and yes. I think this mode of house production, it's going to be, I think in 5 or 10 years' time, you'll see a lot more people opting for this sort of production method, because it's You know, you compare it to traditional building, which can take 9 to 12 months. We were in, you know, from demolition to end of construction, it was only 3 months. A building can be, you know, the whole process can be quite painful, and you know, I see it like, you know, traditional methods like pulling off a band-aid really slowly. This is like quickly, and it's done, you know.
Well, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for showing us around. Should we have a cheers?
Well, there you have it. Who said you can't build a house in 12 weeks? Although it's completely possible to build some kind of house in that time frame with an architect's design and the involvement of the owners, this house has turned into a home. From design to demolition to install to finish, the whole process is streamlined and a completely stress-free experience for the owners and the neighbours alike. This could be the future of inner city building.